right, so we get some estimates to do. So everyone has their own little way of doing estimates. So like, I remember back in the day when we used to do large jobs, we'd have a set of plans. And the joke was, how much do those plans weigh? So you'd weigh the plan. So we'd do a price. We figured the price out. Then we'd weigh the plans. And then we'd come up with a price per pound for the plans. So you'd have plans and spec book, right? So those, you'd have large roll of plans. You'd have all your architectural, mechanical, and then you'd have a large, thick book of all the specs. I don't do that shit anymore. So basically the work that I do now is smaller jobs. So I get service call jobs, which, I handle a certain way. And then small install jobs, which, price those differently. We have some install jobs that are something that we do frequently. So when we do mini split installs, heating and air conditioning, retrofits, those type of things, we kind of have these unit prices that we get figured out. So it's, so much for these installs. And I'll cover those also as far as like how I figure and determine the pricing for those, so that they're a lot more quicker. But some of these jobs to look at are, they're unique. So you got to spend a little bit more time as far as figuring it out. And sometimes they're a little larger where, you want to figure out like what's the best method to, determine your pricing. So there's some the things that I use here. So I've got this electrical price guide, and this price guide is from Trade Service, and I would use this to determine pricing for your small jobs. So you buy a 400 square box, electrical box, right? Metallic 400 square box, knockouts in it, that type of thing. You might buy it at the supply house for $1.25, $2.50 or whatever. But what do they say to charge for that in this, right? So let me just look that up real quick. So switch, outlet, floor boxes, and covers. Let's check that out. So you got switch, outlet, floor boxes, and covers. Page 77. Yeah, so here we go. 400 square boxes. So if this was on my computer, I'd show you a screenshot. But since we're dealing with just paper books, right? So here you go. So they have an A column and a B column. So the A column, and what's nice about these like price guide books is they kind of explain their pricing. So pricing, the A column is always the leftmost of the two prices published in this manual, and it is the lowest price shown. And then the B column is always the rightmost of the two columns published in this manual, and it is the highest price shown. So now, these are not, like buy prices. These aren't where you're going to go to your supply house. Back in the day, before computers were a big thing, right? There'd be this big ass book up on the counter, and it would have all these indexes in it, right? And they, like when they were pricing out their ticket, if you were at the counter and they're flipping through that big index book, right? It's a trade book, one of these guys, but it's got different pricing on it. So I think it had 4 to 6 columns on it, as opposed to this A, B column. And so those were that's where their suggested prices were. And I'm sure your supply house would have if you were on their lowest price there, maybe a discount applies or something like that. But these books, all these books I got, right? These are end sales pricing books, and it will surprise you. Guys that are out there doing work, and they're like, oh yeah, 10 and 10, right? What the hell is 10 and 10, right? What do you say, 10%, 10%? So you buy a box for $1 or $2, you're charging 10, maybe 20 cents, so it's $1, and then you're selling this thing for $1.20. If it's $2, you're selling for $2.40. Is that what you're doing? So, I mean, I don't know how many jobs you do, but every job I ever do, when I go to a job, I never have enough materials. You go to supply house with a list, and you get all your shit, right? You get back and you're doing your work. You're always going out for something else, right? You're always missing something. And then when you're done with the job, you get so much shit left over, right? So it's like, if you're thinking 10 and 10 on these small jobs, there's no way that you're gonna make any money. So even if it's a $2,000 job. Let's say it's 50-50, right? 50 labor, 50 materials, which these days ain't the case. It's usually maybe a third materials. 2/3 is the rest of it, right? I don't know how you look at it, but that's kind of how it works out, right? But if you get a $2,000 job and you're doing 10 and 10, right? That's $400, right? So a $2,000 job, you're going to be making, what, $400? Yeah. Good luck to you. Anyways, back to the boxes. So these are price guides. So this is kind of like, all right, so you get a smaller job and you want to figure out the pricing, you know, maybe it's a T&M job, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a smaller job, but you got to come up with a price, right? So what are you going to do? You're going to just like, right? I have a number of ways of doing it. So back to page 77. And you can get these books every year, but I don't get them every year. I just use them as a price guide. This book here is 2012 price guide. It's almost 2020 now. Look at the price, right? So standard metallic 4-inch square box. You're buying that. All right. I pick a lot of stuff up at Home Depot because I get everything, right? Standard 1.5-inch 4-inch square metallic box, knockouts in it, right? Yeah, close to $2, $1.40-ish, $1.60-ish. I like always getting the deep boxes because I just like that extra room. I don't want to, I want that extra room. I'm not worried about that extra. I think it's an extra maybe $1, $2 or something, right? Anyways, you can see here a 4-inch square box, 1.5 deep. That's your standard deep box. And this ain't with a cover. This is just the box, right? A column is $6, and B column is $19.72. Do you see that? Right up in here, right? And this is a company that is putting out your suggested pricing for this stuff. So even if you're discounting this, you're still way ahead of your thinking of a 10 and 10 markup. And that isn't even realistic, unless you do $1 million jobs. 10% on $1 million jobs, $100,000, right? If you ever done these big jobs, I've done these big jobs. You have some errors on a job, it'll chew through that 10% like you wouldn't believe. So anyways, here's the electrical price guide. For all the smaller electrical jobs, I do. Then, you got the HVAC price guide. Now, you get plumbers out there doing HVAC, which is great. They can handle a lot of that stuff. But like a lot of HVAC guys is electrical, right? Electrical, okay? And if you go and get your EPA certification, right, and some mechanical training, you can do all this stuff with the gauges and stuff, and you can do all the installing the lines and stuff. Expand your business on the mechanical side. If you're doing smaller, if you're an electrician doing smaller work, yeah, you put the time in for your electrical license. Put a little bit more time in for your HVAC license. I'll tell you this though, if you get into HVAC, because I made the mistake of getting into HVAC, and there's so many different types of equipment. You got gas, oil, you got heat pumps, which pretty much I specialize in, but you got heat pump systems that are more like your traditional, right? I used to try to cover it all, right? Duct work, gas, and so it just becomes too much, especially for a small shop. So if you're a small shop, just specialize, if you get into this, just specialize in an area, and then you want to make some relationships with your plumbers and gas fitters, because you're going to need these guys, and you're probably going to want to find a guy that can do duct work. And you'll do really well, because you'll stay real busy doing the electrical and then real busy doing the HVAC. And the pricing, right? They're very similar in pricing, but you can step up your game by kind of adopting price guides, because especially the HVAC business is really into their pricing guidelines as far as what they do. So let's take a look here, right? So let's say we're going to change a starting capacitor in a air conditioning condenser, right? So let's check a starting capacitor, what they say in a starting capacitor, right? Starting capacitors. Here we go. Change out components. capacitors. Perfect. Here we go. So if you're in the service business, doing any type of service work, you really need to have a minimum charge. So when you go out to a job, so but in this here, this book here actually has the price for the install. So like they give you a labor hourly rate here, which they basically say it's a half hour to do, right? And I'd say that's about accurate. You know, by time, if you carry the stock, great. If you don't carry the stock, whatever. But like, say you carry the stock and you gotta go out to the truck. You gotta take the cover off the AC unit, you know, and then you gotta go get it, come back, put it all in. It's a half hour, so that's a reasonable amount of time, right? And so what they say is the rate of the range is anywhere from $68.72 to $95.39, right? So that's their range, right? Just for that replacement part. So you'd go out there and you'd get your service call rate, and then you would look and apply the replacement part rate to it. So as you can see, just so like I am not, you know, making this stuff up, you can see the capacitor, and then you can see the different rates here, right? And they actually have the different size of the capacitors and everything, right? So you can actually make, you know, like this, you know, like a lot of times you may work against yourself when you're looking at charging a customer. Think about times when you've worked for a company, especially in the HVAC field, where it's all service, pretty much, right? And you're looking at the job, and, you know, whether, you know, if you have your techs out there doing the pricing and stuff like that, it's a big mistake, because they're not business people. They're you know, like some companies can train their guys to do upsells and that type of thing. Fantastic. But like, how many times have you been a tech out there, and like you're looking at the job, and like you get to talk to your office, and like, you know what's involved in the work? You pretty much know what this stuff costs, right? And the office is saying, yeah, tell the customer that's going to be $900 to do, right? So the office keeps you honest, right? Because like obviously you'd be like $900, right? And you kind of work against yourself by, you know, working with the customer and thinking that, you know, the parts cost me $100. I'm going to be here like maybe an hour, you know, maybe $300, right? But your office wants $900. Well, that $900 is covering you on a job where, you know, they eat it good, right? So it's like, you know, books like this help keep you on the straight and narrow.